Okay, so hey everyone, and welcome back for another one of our deep dives. Today we're going to be looking at Muslim-Christian relations.
Yeah.
Since 9/11. And for this one, we're going to be using this really interesting YouTube video that we found by Sports Scout. And yeah, we're going to be diving into all this stuff in there, all the different aspects of it, trying to figure out what's going on in the world today.
Sounds good.
How these two massive world religions are interacting with each other and what it means for all of us.
Yeah. This is going to be a tough one, I think. It's a very sensitive topic.
Yeah.
Very important to be careful about how we talk about it, for sure.
Absolutely. And I think it's something that everyone kind of remembers where they were when 9/11 happened and how the world felt right after that.
Oh, absolutely. That was a crazy time for everyone. So much fear and uncertainty. I think the video does a good job of acknowledging that, you know, we can't just pretend like that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But also making sure that we don't generalize about people based on their religion just because of this one event.
Yeah, because in any religion, you're going to find a ton of different beliefs.
Of course.
And a ton of different ways of interpreting things.
Absolutely.
So it would be like saying that all fans of a certain sports team are bad.
Right.
Just because a few of them got out of hand at a game.
Exactly. A few bad apples don't spoil the whole bunch, right? You can't judge a whole group of people because of the actions of a few.
Exactly. And so the video goes on to talk about some of the positive things that have been happening since then and the ways in which people have been trying to bridge the gap between these two faiths.
Right.
And what stood out to me was they talked about this group called the Islamic Society of North America, ISNA. They've been working with all sorts of Christian organizations to do all this really cool stuff.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Like conferences and workshops and even community service projects together.
It's really encouraging to see people actively working to build bridges like that.
Yeah, and they're not just talking about it, they're actually getting out there and doing stuff.
Right, and it's not just about tolerance, it's about understanding and respect.
Right.
Really getting to know each other and finding that common ground.
Yeah. And I thought it was really cool that they were talking about how they emphasize the shared values between Christianity and Islam. You know, things like compassion and justice and peace.
Yeah, there's so much that we have in common as human beings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless of our religious beliefs.
But the video also doesn't shy away from the fact that there have been challenges and setbacks since 9/11. And one of the things they brought up was this reported increase in the persecution of Christians in certain Muslim majority countries.
Yeah, that's a very complex issue. And it's easy to jump to conclusions when we hear these reports. But it's important to remember that there's always more to the story.
Yeah, I mean, what is the context surrounding these events?
Yeah.
Are we talking about isolated incidents? Or is this a widespread systemic problem?
And what about the role of local politics?
Right.
And social dynamics?
Right.
Those things can have a huge impact on how religious groups interact with each other.
They brought up a really interesting example in the video about this riot that happened between Muslims and Christians in Damascus back in 1860.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading about that. A lot of people saw it as just a religious conflict.
Right.
But historians have actually found that there were a lot of economic anxieties at play.
Oh, really?
Yeah, things like competition for resources and jobs, and that really fueled the violence.
Wow, so it wasn't just about religion. It was about basic survival.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
It just goes to show you that we can't always take things at face value, especially when it comes to something as complex as religious tensions.
Yeah, we really need to dig deeper. And look beyond the surface.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to the role of the media, right? Because the way that the media portrays
for sure.
these events can really shape how we think about them.
Absolutely.
What did you think about what the video said about that?
Well, they made a good point about how the media often focuses on the negative, like the conflicts and the violence.
Yeah.
And that can create this impression that things are worse than they actually are.
Right. And it makes it easy to forget.
Yeah.
All the positive stories that are out there.
Exactly. All the everyday acts of kindness and cooperation between Muslims and Christians that don't make the news.
Right, because those aren't as exciting to report on. You know, it's much more dramatic to talk about the conflicts and the disagreements.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be a critical consumer of media. Don't just accept everything you see and hear at face value. Question it. Look for different perspectives. Do your own research.
Yeah, I think that's good advice for everything in life, not just this topic.
Oh, absolutely.
But okay, so we've talked about the challenges. But the video also highlights this really cool example of a country that's doing things right. And that's Indonesia.
Indonesia.
Yeah, so tell me what you know about that.
Well, Indonesia is the world's most populous Muslim-majority country.
Okay.
But they've managed to create this really harmonious environment for different religious communities.
Wow.
Muslims and Christians live together peacefully, and they even have a lot of interfaith initiatives.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
And I think they mentioned that the Pope is actually planning to visit Indonesia soon.
That's right. He's going to be meeting with Muslim leaders at the Istiqlal Mosque in Jakarta.
Wow, that's a really powerful symbol of interfaith dialogue and respect.
Absolutely. It sends a message to the world that these two faiths can come together and find common ground.
And they're also making efforts to ease restrictions on building houses of worship.
Yeah, they've been working to make it easier for different religious groups to get permits for new buildings.
So like everyone's welcome to practice their religion freely.
Exactly. It's all about inclusivity and religious freedom. Indonesia is a real model for other nations that are struggling with religious tensions.
Yeah, I think there's a lot we can learn from their example.
Definitely.
So we've covered a lot of ground today about Muslim-Christian relations since 9/11.
We have.
What do you think are the biggest takeaways from this whole discussion?
Well, I think the main thing is that it's like a very complex and nuanced issue. There have been both positive developments and setbacks, and we can't just simplify it or make generalizations.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's important to be critical, to question what we hear, to do our own research, and to be open to different perspectives.
And I think it's also important to remember that we all have a role to play in fostering understanding and challenging stereotypes. It doesn't have to be anything huge. It could be something as simple as starting a conversation with someone from a different faith background, or just being more mindful of the language we use.
Absolutely. Every little bit helps.
All right, so that's all the time we have for today, but I hope this deep dive has given you some things to think about and maybe even inspired you to learn more about this important topic.
It's definitely a conversation worth continuing.
Absolutely.
So thanks for listening, everyone.
And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.